Welcome to PolyKill's Off-Killter podcast, a show without a topic. Pull up a seat at the bar and share your best story with your hosts and fellow barflies, Jake and Travis.
Hello once again, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on yet another Off-Killter podcast. This time we asked our listeners to send in stories about their run-ins with nature. Any bees or bears or raccoons or avian species, who knows?
Swine
or swans. Any encounter that you didn't see coming and nature sort of, threw a wrench your way. You didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
And maybe you came out worse for it. Maybe you're scared.
Maybe you're wiser because of it.
We hope so.
Maybe you get a good scar out of it.
Maybe it doesn't involve an animal. Maybe it just involves being out in the woods lost.
Yeah.
That's a nature thing.
It is.
That involves the nature. So we did get a couple really good submissions. And if you're not familiar with the way this works, this is unlike our PolyKill podcast where we talk strictly about games. This is our off-topic podcast where we talk about anything but. And it's just our opportunity to have a little bit of fun and spread our wings a little bit.
Spread our wings and fly.
Jake, tell me, how often do you and nature hang out?
Given my lifestyle, not as much as I wish. I'd long for more, because we're surrounded by it. We don't live in the city.
No.
There's nature about. There are beautiful hiking trails and rivers around here, and I do get to frequent them occasionally, so maybe I get to infrequent them. Maybe that's the better way to put it. I infrequent them.
You infrequent
them?
I
infrequent them. But I've done a little bit, but I always want more, because every time I'm outside sitting around a fire or camping or like in the woods, I like it. I just my busy schedule doesn't always allow for such.
I tell you, I am a sucker for some good weather. If I look outside, it's just sunshine and it's hot. I just want to be out there. And I have lizard blood and lizard skin.
Yeah,
I gotta have
crazy.
I gotta have a hot rock. I'll crawl up on it like an iguana and just nap right in the sun and just dry myself out.
I hate it.
I love it. It's my favorite thing.
No.
And so I do try to get outside as much as possible, but like you said, schedule doesn't always allow for it, and it sort of makes me feel guilty days that I don't get to go outside and do something.
Right.
It's even if it's going to a park, which is barely nature.
Yeah.
But I don't get to even do that as much as I'd like to. But there are sometimes that I have. You and I have both been on some hikes.
We've done that.
I have been able to afford myself some weekend hikes. I'd like to do longer. I'd like to do a week. We're real close to the Appalachian Trail here, and of course, if I had 6 months of life to spare, I might even try to do the whole thing. But little weekends at a time, piecing together sections of the trail, specifically in our state of Virginia, that I can, just to see new parts of it. It's what I'm always trying to do.
Yeah.
And, of course, me and a friend, Dave, have been trying to do that. It's been our goal. So whenever we can sync up schedules, get out there, do a little bit of hiking, we will do that. And like you said, we are, in a pretty... it's not just a city; it's even a pretty rural area by rural standards. So
yeah.
There is a lot of outdoor opportunities. I mean, growing up, everybody I knew hunted.
Right? It's a big thing around here.
It's a big thing around here. And of course, hunting and fishing and all that stuff is real popular. And it's not to say that it isn't elsewhere, but of course, grew up in a small town. It just seems like a bigger deal.
Right? Because everyone does that.
Yeah, it's the hobby that pretty much overlaps or consumes most people.
Yeah.
I didn't hunt though. Did you ever hunt? Were you ever a hunter?
Never hunted a thing in my days, and not because I'm necessarily averse to it. I actually really like the idea, in theory, because I think it'd be a fun experience to try to match your wits against nature and see who can come out on top and finding things and
Are you talking about the most dangerous game, like a person?
No, I am not talking about that. No, I'm just talking about the idea of man and beast at war with each other. I think it's a fun idea, but I just never have. I fished, I guess. I've done that. I've done a bit of that, not in a very long time, but something I would like to get back to because I'm sure my appreciation for just the relaxation part of it.
I'm way too millennial to enjoy fishing. If I went fishing, I'd have to have my DS with me. There's so much downtime.
There's a lot of downtime.
If I'm just sitting there and there's long periods of time where I'm just staring at a piece of string waiting for it to make the water ripple harder, I feel like I'm not getting the most out of my life. I don't know. Yeah. I just would I prefer, like you said, hunting more wilderness style than, fishing from a boat is fine. I think that's more of an experience. But if you're just on the bank, that's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be on a bank and fishing. I mean, I would do it given the opportunity, but I would much prefer to be like in the water, on the water, no land in sight, or at least far enough away that I couldn't just I'll just go back.
It's not to say that I haven't done it. I've fished a ton. I'm just pretty over it now. I would much rather just go buy it, or enjoy a beer and do nothing else outside with other things around me than the smell of fish. So there's that. But yeah, hunting wise, I never really did that. My dad didn't, and I think that's usually where it comes from. Your father or an older brother or uncle or somebody takes you on that hunting trip, and it either clicks because you love the thrill of it, or it shatters you and traumatizes you because you love animals and now they're all dead in the back of a truck. Growing up, we had to shoot off a lot of critters from the garden and things.
Right.
So, I did have to, murder some cute, fuzzy animals. Sonic the Hedgehog would have been very disappointed. Killed a lot of them. But I don't know. Just didn't really hunt them, not for the sport aspect. More just get off my yard.
Right.
Get out of my stuff.
Preservation of crops.
Yeah, it's sort of a big deal. The groundhogs and the raccoons and
squirrels sometimes.
Occasional squirrel or a possum or rabbit.
Rabbits are awful.
Yeah. So that's the biggest game I guess I ever saw it after was like a groundhog, like a 15-pound just stinking flubbery ass old whistle pig.
You've never seen anything bigger, or you killed something that big?
I've never shot at anything bigger.
Okay, all right.
Well, actually, I don't know if that's true or not because turkeys are big.
Turkeys are big.
Yeah, so
depending on whether to.
Well, as a little kid, I remember one time heading out the back door, and I had my dog with me. It was a real Huck Finn kind of thing. And or red fern grows, I don't know.
Old Yeller.
And I had my BB gun, had a bent barrel on it, couldn't shoot shit. I had to do sniper clicks, just to shoot a tin can from 10 feet away. And there was a lot of cow pastures and stuff behind the house, and some inlets and coves and whatever, and really uninhabited. So it wasn't our land, but it was okay for me to just run around in it.
Sure.
And I remember having the BB gun and the dog had sped on ahead, and he'd caught a scent of something, and I wasn't really hunting for anything. I just had the gun. It was just a cool thing for a kid to do.
Sure, just walk around with a BB gun.
Yeah, it's almost like fucking
Fallout.
Yeah, sure. Just like Fallout. Just run around, explore.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find a shed and open it and see what's in there. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a clue. But out of nowhere, this fucking turkey, I don't know where the fuck it came from, but it just runs past me as if it was in a race and I was in its way. Gobbling and shit, and I didn't lay eyes on it until it was way close to me, and the gun falls, and I don't even know where the fuck the dog went. Where's he at?
Yeah, what's he doing?
He probably was the one that spooked the turkey, but it was scary as fuck. I was probably 9, and holy shit, turkeys are huge when you're 9.
They're really big, and they're really loud.
Very loud.
They are
extremely fast.
Very disruptive.
Yes, very disruptive. That was, and I didn't shoot at it, but I wished I had.
Yeah.
At the time, and I wouldn't have done much damage with a pellet rifle.
Oh, no.
In general, but that's the closest I ever got to, I guess, murdering an animal because I really wanted to, but I just he scared shit out of me. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a friend whose parents are in short order going to be moving to Alaska. And he's like, you know what that means, right, Jake? And I was like, what does that mean? That means we're going to go to Alaska. And go out there and go camping in Alaska and maybe go on a week-long hunt and shoot at a caribou or something. I was like,
that'll be fun when you're inexperienced.
Great.
Yeah.
Would love that. But, never really have shot at anything. No.
Well, that's good, I guess. If you're shooting at things and not really hitting them, it's not your hobby anyway. So
right.
So it's if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I do enjoy the hikes though. I love going out there, having the trail, and just walking aimlessly, and I think that's fine. You know, it's exercise and it's occasionally peaceful, but I always creep myself out. Could be broad daylight, and it could be broad daylight, and I could just be separated from my buddy. You know, because I'll usually get pretty far ahead of him, and then we'll wait for each other and meet back up, especially when it's just the two of us. Yeah. But you know, the eerie silence of nature is really, if you're you know, you're used to your adult hustle and bustle, wake up and go to work, and cars and roads and your iPod and your podcasts and all that, just standing still in the trees and hearing a branch creak, you know, from a direction, you're like, what was that? And I have bear brain. I have bear brain. We do have here you know, everything here is a little, it's not as great, big, and scary as it is in other places. Like, even our bear are small.
They are small.
Know? Our mountains aren't really mountains. They're just hills with trees on them.
Right.
You know, and all those other things. So I'm sure other people have more grandiose tales they could tell, but I always have bear brain. Anytime I hear a stick break or I hear a leaf scuffle, I immediately am thinking, probably a bear. Usually birds or squirrel. It's right. Crazy how loud they can sound.
Maybe the wind.
Could be the wind. But, you know, if I'm able to, like, I hear a scuffling, and I'm like, oh shit, it's coming right for me, and then I'll just see, like, a squirrel dart up a tree real fast. I'm like, oh fuck.
Dodged a bullet.
Dodged a bullet. It's just crazy how much louder things sound when you're out there and everything's scuffling in the leaves.
Yeah.
But I have actually had some bear run-ins.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've come face to face with one, which was very off-putting and scary and terrifying.
Yeah.
The first time I ever saw one, I guess it saw us first because I just saw his big bear ass kind of bumbling down the mountain away from us, and I was like, "Ha!" And then tell your friends too while you're down there. Don't come back. And then, of course, after that, anything that moves is a bear.
Right.
The other one was my wife and I were just going to go on a hike, and just a little day hike. We parked in a little thing, had our shorts and our sneakers on, and we're going to do a little 3-miler up to an overlook and come right back to the car. And there were a lot of people out that day. It was a pretty day. It was like, you know, maybe the first hot day of April, you know, when everybody's just, fuck it, let's...
Just like get outside.
Let's do it. And so there's actually a lot of people around. We passed a group of people coming out as we were going in. Everybody was laughing and having a good time. And we maybe, you know, walk another 5 minutes or so, and this little bear cub starts running toward me on the trail and then darts off into the bushes. And I was like, fuck it. Because you don't know where mom is. Right. You know she's close.
Right.
And
absolutely.
So that could have been awful if we had crossed in front of them or something. You don't ever want that. You don't want it.
You don't want to be there.
You don't want it to be there.
It's a bad place to be.
But the one that really hits the Travis Richter scale was, we're hiking the Appalachian Trail. There's a little, you just cut through a farm with some cows and stuff, and it was kind of cool, because the cows are just used to people walking through, and they're just like in the trail. You could just walk by and like smack them on the ass. Be like, be good beef,
Good game.
Don't tense up, you'll ruin your meat, Just relax. And just walked on through and crossed the fence, and we're kind of, walking along the edge of a tree line, and there's a fence beside of us, and hear that scuffle out there. And I'm like, probably just a giant squirrel. Usually is. And I look on the ridge, and there's a bear, and he's coming right toward us. Full bear, like all 4 legs just pounding. And I can't really react in time because there's another thing going on where the dog that is with us, we had briefly, just to get him through the fences we had just come through and everything, had just briefly taken him off his leash, so he was running a little bit free, which is not good. And he's deaf. So it's not like, hey dog, don't. It's like, if he fucking sees the bear before we do, we're going to have a situation.
Yeah. We're going to have a dead dog, is what we're going to have.
A dead dog and
maybe.
Who knows what else?
Maybe.
Who knows what else could happen in the situation. So we...
I've often heard that bears are terrified of dogs. I don't know if that's true.
Well, hopefully they're terrified of blind, albino, really dumb ones. But Dave it's his dog, and he kind of has the wherewithal to really focus on the dog. He's like, this is
the crux.
This is going to help us most. So he kind of grabs the dog just almost in time, really, and just snaps it right on his neck, and gets the leash back on. I was like, oh, thank God. But meanwhile, like all this, that just kind of happened while the bear was standing up on his back legs, giving us sort of this double high five, kind of like, oh, what are you doing? And just from a few feet away, and we were like, just walking, like, I don't know what you want from us. And he...
How close was the bear at this point?
Oh, 25, 30 feet.
That's close.
Like pretty close. Like maybe the length of this room. Maybe not even that. Yeah, it was really close.
That's real close.
And
that's real close.
Yeah, and he did that whole thing where he was like, go away, pretty much. And then he puts his paws back down on the ground with a thump, and he kind of backs up, and he turns around, and he runs back up to the ridge where he ran at us from. And then as we started to walk, he just paced until we got out of view. And of course, after that, bear brain on the day, or bear on the brain all day.
Oh yeah,
every little.
Your chances of seeing a bear at that point have gone down astronomically.
I would see other people coming. I'd be like, I bet that guy's the bear. He just got a hat. It's the bear with the fucking hat and some denims.
Got some overalls.
Yeah, so that was pretty terrifying. But I looked up after that. That's evidently something they do. Now, before this, I had not researched what bears might do to scare me.
Right.
I hadn't done it. I hadn't taken the time. Should have.
Right.
Turns out they'll do a thing called a false charge, where they just want to run up and get you to leave or run. And if you run, they might give chase. That's kind of what they want.
Food runs.
But if you don't run, they are just kind of like, all right, fine, and they'll just pace you until you either decide to run, which we did not. We very casually walked away, or you'd come at them, in which case they'd get defensive. But fortunately, we had the wherewithal to just stand still and shit our pants.
And control the dog.
That was the big thing. I had no hand in that. It was a very sleek move, because I was like, take the dog. That was my first thing. Right. I was like, I'll be fine. Just maybe get the dog. I'm out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, that was a big scary one.
Yeah. I've only seen a live bear in person once, and that was at work, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, just running around?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I work at the Virginia Tech Smart Road, and on the road there's this big cut right through the mountain that allows us to drive through it. And one day I was out there working, had a public participant with me, and we were just parked out there doing a few things, and I look up, and it's like, oh, there's a bear. And it's just walking across the road, broad daylight, and just not very big. I mean, probably about the size of a Great Dane, a large animal, but not a big bear.
Yeah, because black bear aren't
they're not very big. They're very, very moderate sized bear.
But
it was just like,
I'm a very weak-minded, easy to scare man.
But it's still a bear.
I mean, yeah. I'm afraid of big dogs and bear, because they have the same size teeth.
Yeah.
I have seen another bear up close. I mean, aside from just being in a zoo, but this is more of a funnier story. It's actually not far from here. We were driving and on a back road, real curvy ass back road, and there's in our lane there was a truck that was stopped on the road. And he had his hazards on. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, not here. Like, whatever's going on here shouldn't be happening right here. There's really no excuse for it. But as he sees that I'm behind him, and he points at his window, and I follow the point, and there's a bear. It's decently far away. I mean, it's maybe 50, 60 yards away. But there's a bear on a stump, and he's, like, waving at us. And the guy, like, pointed, and I was like, there's a fucking bear. And I was like, I'll wave too. I was like, hey, bear, what's fucking up? And it was really far away, and then the bear just fucking left. I was like, that was crazy. I was like, did that guy know that bear? Was he like, hey, sir, I'm just waving at my bear.
Hey, just waving at the bear.
I was like, shit. So I've driven back through there a few times, always looking over the bank, and sometimes I'll wave anyway. I'm like, shit, he's probably watching.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He is. Nice.
Yeah, we have a story that involves a bear. You want me to jump in on that?
Jump in on that bear story.
This is going to be a bigger bear. I got to be honest with you now.
Okay.
We have a good buddy, Dean. At round _2 gaming there on Twitter. He submitted a story to us, and it's long, but it is good. So okay. I'm going to read it here.
Hit it up.
Growing up here in the Canadian Rockies, wildlife encounters have always been synonymous with daily life. Opening the front door on my way to school only to confront a herd of elk on the front lawn. Early morning meetings at the office, but kept awake at night from the pack of wolves just outside the window. Barbecuing outside, wondering what creature those eyes belong to, staring back at you from just beyond the tree line. It's always just been the norm. I don't say that's badass.
That is badass.
That is badass. Like, Banff, Canada... It's just badass. Have you seen the pictures of the place?
I have seen the pictures of the place.
And then you got packs
gorgeous.
of wolves just watching you barbecue.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing. But let's not mistake familiarity with comfort. Oh, but bears are so cute and furry, you might say. I wouldn't say that.
I don't say that.
I wouldn't say that. There's nothing cute about an 800-pound mass charging towards you with claws as long as your fingers and a mouth that fits perfectly around your tiny head. But hey, I wouldn't know. In 28 years, I've had countless bear encounters, but thankfully none that required me to fight back. It happens, though. Every year, more and more attacks here in the park. A hiker stumbling across a den, a trail runner accidentally getting between a grizz and her cubs, a tourist who gets just a little too close for that perfect photo, all ending up in the morgue. We're taught in school how to react. You know how it's crazy when you live in a place where, you know,
Part of the curriculum, yeah.
Yeah, we had, like, you know, tornado drills and, like, hazard spill drills because our school's on the interstate. And then there's schools out there where they're like, if a bear gets into school, this is how you do it.
Right. Recess is canceled.
Recess is canceled. Throw your food at the bear. Run away from where you threw the food. So they were taught in school to play dead, to make yourself look big, to growl real loud. By the way, I want to see the class of kids all practicing their growls. It'd be adorable. And never turn your back. All those conventions go out the window, though, when you come face to face. And because of that, bear spray has become a staple for all of us here in the park.
I'm aware of bear spray.
Walking to work, bring your bear spray. Going to grab some groceries, make sure you have your bear spray. Heading up to the mountain for some evening fresh air, bring 2 cans of bear spray. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
It kept me safe, but not worry-free, and probably the most scared I've been was a few years ago. I was walking to work early in the morning, just at the tail end of summer. Naturally, rather than taking the obnoxiously long way around, I chose the usual shortcut through the woods. Also, one of those days where I didn't have my spray. Oh boy. Dean, you gotta take 2 cans. 2 cans. It's not a huge forest, but enough to account for regular encounters with the local 4-legged populace. A few deer, a few elk, the occasional coyotes and wolves. Bears and cougars, not too often. And a lynx once, but this day was different. A few hundred feet into the woods, the path narrows into a small creek bridge, like 15 feet, not big. I stepped onto the bridge, and that's when I heard it. Thick trunks cracking under something big. I knew it wasn't a squirrel or any of the usual critters. Maybe an elk? I stood still and it cracked again. It was close. Then came the grunts. I remember checking my phone, thinking it may have just been a podcast playing out of my headphones. Is that a bear? Or is that... It's not PolyKill.
It's not PolyKill. They
Must
don't
be a
sound
bear.
like
Could be the STC podcast, though. I think they grunt a little bit. It was right around the corner, but which one? I took another step, and another set of trunks cracked under the same weight. It was stalking me.
Ooh.
Can't recall what possessed me to go forward, but that's what I chose. And very slowly I crept around. Nothing. Couldn't see it or hear it again. I stood still, waiting, wondering if I was walking into its path. Silence. Just the creek. Bumbling creek. Water. Was it my imagination? Surely I heard breathing. How could it have disappeared so quickly? Was it the Mothman? That's what I want to know. Could have been.
Could have been. I mean, it's a
Panicked.
long way from Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
So, he could get around. He's a
You
moth.
can get around.
Panicked, I paced quickly through the cul-de-sac on the other side. Emerging out, I looked back to see trees. No animals, just trees. I hopped on Twitter via cell phone to let the world know of my experience. Couldn't sum it up in 140 characters, so put the phone away and went to work. Then I got the call. My wife, panicked and out of breath. You know, the one I'm supposed to love and protect. That one I'm supposed to look out for through every step of my life. The one who follows the same path to work just a half hour later every damn morning. Turns out she crossed the same bridge. Only guess what was waiting on the other side? A huge grizzly bear. Now I have about 100 pounds on my wife, and a full-grown grizz could toss me aside like a wet noodle. She wouldn't have stood a chance. Luckily, it hadn't hurt her, and she was able to sneak around it, leaping into a neighbor's backyard. After she explained everything, I calmed her down, and we were able to find some humor in the fear. Then, and this is how smart I am, I decided, why not tell her my story? I went on to explain the events, and trying to explain how calling her to warn her had somehow slipped my mind. What possessed me to let that one slip, I'll never know. Let's just say that humor turned back into fear pretty damn quick. In hindsight, that bear probably wouldn't have stood a chance against her either. Or against her at all. So, good story.
Good.
Well written.
Yeah.
Goddamn. A narrow footbridge, and the bear's just waiting on you. Like, it's just a funnel to his mouth.
Yeah.
Damn. It's crazy. That's like, just driving past somewhere, and then, if you're on your way back, you see there's an accident there, and you're like, I just missed fate.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what happened here.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
I want to know also how you sneak around a grizzly bear.
I also would like to know that. Because given someone my size, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Are you going to Pink Panther it, like really high step the knees?
Yeah. You just step on the ball of your feet.
You think, bear being bear and living outside would be, really attuned to hearing people.
Smelling people.
Smelling them. I'm sure people stink.
Yeah.
Artificial flavors of stink.
Right.
Perfume, cologne, excuse me, Axe body spray,
All that.
It's crazy.
Bears.
What would you have done?
What would I have done?
If you come face to face with a grizzly.
What
are you supposed to do?
I think there's... I think, Dean kind of covered it. There's different mechanisms to try to, ward off the grizzly, which is make yourself look big, growl. Don't be aggressive, but don't back down.
Stop listening to your podcast.
Stop listening to your podcast for sure. Spray it with bear spray.
Yeah.
See, I've always been afraid of the fetal position thing, and I know that's been like almost a standard thing for a long time. I don't know if it still is, but that just terrifies me. It's like, why would I just lay down?
Yeah,
I get it, kind of, but like it's just like the thought, like part of my brain's like, no, don't lay here and look like a child or something. Because that's, like, they'll probably come closer at that point. I don't want it to come closer. I want it to go further away.
I almost wonder if that's, like, a pop culture, like, I don't know that is the, at least to today's age, the recommended move.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those sort of maybe overdone, overplayed things. Like, like when you shoot a car, it blows up kind of thing.
Right, yeah. I think they...
from the movies.
The movie, like, Without a Paddle, I think has that
it does.
fetal bear scene, which makes
pretty funny
for good comedic effect. But maybe you're supposed to do that if it comes to that. Like, if the bear does kind of charge you, maybe then you do it. Yeah. I don't think you just approach the footbridge and like, oh, fuck it, and just get in the fetal. I
don't think so. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That would not have been my instinct.
Yeah. You watch... what was the movie? Is it The Revenant? Is that the one with the... Yeah. If Leo had just maybe went in the fetal.
Yeah.
He never did.
Never did.
And that movie was a whole movie about how man didn't get in the fetal.
That's true. That's true.
That's all it was.
That's what it was. Man won an Oscar for eating a buffalo heart.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a real right.
I think it was a real thing.
He threw up. The real vomit you see there is Leo rejecting...
raw buffalo,
and I don't blame Leo's innards for saying no to that.
Not in the slightest.
But thank you, Dean. That was a really good story. Very riveting. I'm very glad your wife's okay. You might want to warn her next time you think there's a bear.
Yeah, 800-pound killing machine around the corner.
I feel like he lives in fairy tale land.
I know.
He gets to walk through, like he takes a shortcut through the woods to work.
Yeah,
with nature and
sounds awesome.
I gotta visit Banff one day. That's all I gotta do.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Gotta do it.
Yeah. So I know you have kind of a. I won't say it's irrational fear because it's a fear that a lot of people have.
Oh, snakes?
Of snakes.
Oh, it's irrational.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. But what predicated that? Do you have any idea what the...
I think it was a couple things. It was a mix of my father constantly warning me about the snakes and then also me seeing the ones he was warning me about constantly. Because where...
Okay.
Yeah, because it was sort of like... where we lived, like I kind of explained a little bit of it, but it was a fairly rural area, woodsy, rocky, old house. There's a creek, there's some caves, and further up the mountain there was this old junkyard, so to speak. And I don't think it was an actual junkyard. I think somebody had just been using it for a junkyard. Until like the 50s, so there's like really old cars, like just kind of rolled over a bank. Like this whole wooded bank has like old washers and dryers and old like 1930s cars and stuff, and it's actually pretty neat when you're a kid. It's kind of like a Spielberg moment. You take your buddies out there and you just go,
yeah,
you take your bikes and poke around. But
there's probably a lot of snakes in it.
Well, what had happened was at some point wolf rats had came from there. This is all according to my dad, because my dad grew up kind of in that little area, and they cleaned up a lot of that, but a lot of the vermin that had found its way and found some homes in those places had stuck through, which the snakes love. They enjoy that stuff.
They do.
They'll eat big old rats and whatever else they can get a hold of. And so that would occasionally trickle down. And we're talking some fairly poisonous snakes for the area. I mean, primarily the copperhead and then the occasional cottonmouth because of all the water that was there. Yeah. And, of course, tons of black snakes, which don't so much bother me. Now, I've become a person I'm not afraid of the snakes that I can see.
Okay.
It is the idea that there are snakes I cannot see.
The threat of snakes.
Yes, the threat of snakes is, and also in general, images of snakes striking or videos of them striking. I do no buenos. That's just, no, thank you. I'll pass.
Fair enough.
I don't like that. I'm very staunch against that. Like just their movements in general, I don't like. But also as a child, there were a couple run-ins that I had with the snakes. One time I was coming home from school, got off the bus with my sister, so I was very small because we only shared a home for a brief amount of time. She was older. And so got off the bus, and what kids always do, you run straight into the house. You just run. You know, you got your backpack on like school's fucking done. We're all just running everywhere.
Right.
And my sister runs up the stairs, and I hear, ah! And she comes back down. And I'm just confused because I'm like 5, and I'm like, I got like all my lunch on my shirt. I'm just like, what's going on? And then my mom runs back upstairs with a pistol, and I was like, I guess Cindy didn't do her homework. Like, I've heard that it's a big deal. I'm on it. But then I hear her, cause she shoots like 4 times. Like, I'm like, what happened up there? I was very scared. And then just kind of left it there for my dad. And then my dad gets home, and we're all greeting him with this. We're like, so we get home, and then there were shots fired. And then my dad goes, and there was a copperhead in my sister's floor.
Oh, shit.
And so that convinced my mom to convince my dad to rip up all the paneling and all the baseboards pretty much in the house and resituate them. Yeah. Because they were thinking that's because it's a really old house.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Thinking it slithered its way up through the walls.
Ugh.
And because the base of the house was a cabin that had been, like a really old log cabin that had been added to. Okay. And my dad always told me, he's like, there could be snakes in the walls. Like, I'm not saying that to scare you, but you shouldn't just
stay away from the walls.
Don't stick your hands in places, is what I'm saying, which is a horrible thing to live with. Yeah. It's a very horrible thing to live with. But, they also, about a year later, or, well, maybe not even a year later, maybe a couple months later, there was one in my bed, like kind of draped along like the side of the bedpost, just kind of hanging out, just kind of waiting, just seeing if Travis was going to bed or not. This is while my dad was still fixing the thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I became very afraid of my bedroom and snakes and the dark. Pretty much right there. That was it.
that was the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. And they didn't tell me about the thing. My sister actually ended up telling me about that because, as big sisters do, my dad just didn't tell me. But my sister's like, oh, you know why they won't let you sleep up there? Because they found a snake in your bed. And I was like, just kill me. I hate being 5. It's awful. So those are some big ones, and then just a lot of just copperheads, real dangerous copperheads. Yeah. There was one time I was at home, still very young, and I remember it must have been summer, and I might have even been younger than the previous story. I just remember this sticks out to me. We were sitting on our patio, and my mom's kind of sunbathing or whatever, and I'm just outside, and there's evidently a snake underneath the patio, it's a fairly tall patio. It's like 15 feet tall. It kind of, much like the one I have here at my house. But no one, like the bottom was just all brambles. Like no one went down there.
Right. Okay.
And somehow my mom spotted the snake and wanted to know if I wanted to look at it. So I was like, sure, yeah, I think, I'm 4, but I think that I see what you're talking about down there. I don't much like it. And so she called my dad, and my dad came home and took care of it. But it was a copperhead, and when my dad killed it, and I know that people, you shouldn't kill snakes or whatever, or you should relocate them. Like, I get that, and we got that. It was just like, there's so many. Like, it's not good to have this many snakes around your house. So we're trying to...
That's fair, especially when you got children.
We're trying to eliminate a few, okay? Yeah. And for good reason for this one, because when he hits it, it's full of babies, and they go everywhere. And awful. It was terrible. To this day, it's fucking sins right. It might be my earliest memory, is that. So yeah, I don't fucking like snakes, man. Bring it on. What do you got? I don't give a shit. Like, like, they're fine. Just pet one.
No,
like,
I'm never gonna tell you to do that.
I won't ever.
I don't want you to traumatize yourself.
I got tons more fucking snake stories.
No,
Didn't end when I was 4th, unfortunately.
I've had a few runs with snakes. I think one of the worst ones, it really became an ordeal. Like, it became a problem. This one specific snake. We were at a house. We were staying at a house, my family and I. So my mom and dad, my sister and myself. We were staying at a house, and there was a basement. It wasn't a finished basement. It still had like the concrete floor with cinder block walls, mildly furnished, but there was a piano, like an upright saloon piano in the basement. And we were just down there hanging out. I'm not exactly sure what I was doing, playing Connect 4 or Battleship or something.
By yourself?
No, my sister and myself. Oh. And then we started noticing this very peculiar aroma, like this very distinct, slightly skunkish smell. We're like, what is that? That smells like a skunk. I don't think there'd be a skunk down here. It's broad daylight, summertime, and we're down here making all kinds of racket, lining up colors in this Connect 4.
Reds and blues.
Yeah, no, reds and blacks.
Reds and blacks. Okay,
blacks, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So we start snooping around, and we look on the piano. The scent seems to be originating from this piano, and we look behind the piano, and here lies a black snake. Like, it's fairly large black snake.
Yes.
Like, eventually, once we get it out, it's over 6 feet long, this black snake.
Yeah, they will get big.
It's a big one.
I'll tell you what.
The ordeal that became the problem is that my mother was deathly terrified of snakes. Just completely irrational. Didn't matter what, brand of snake it is. If it slithered, she hated it. And so the mentality was that my dad had to kill it to put her at ease, which I never really liked. Always felt that was kind of awful, but I get it. So anyway, my dad starts trying to eradicate this snake. And this thing just locks on to like one of the rollers on the bottom of the
piano.
Of the piano. Just wraps itself around there.
Won't
let go.
He's in there.
And it takes hours to get rid of this snake. Like, it's just pulling and tugging and making awful rackets and hissing and striking and it was an ordeal. It was quite the ordeal. Finally got it out of there, but it was big snake. Very girthy.
Yeah.
Serpent.
Girthy serpent. That's what they used to call me in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at least part of me. Nice. He's called a piece of me.
I've had a few other run-ins with snakes, nothing huge. One that comes to mind is a recent hike that you and myself did.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get to that.
Yeah, this is a good story. So you tell it from your perspective, and then I'll tell it from mine. Since I've been up at John.
So there's 4 of us. Get to know us. In the lead was Josh, a very fit man.
A mountain goat of a man.
A mountain goat of a man, always very much in front of the rest of us, which is great because he's got a fine muscular bottom, which is fine for staring at.
It's true.
Best friend. We're best men at each other's weddings, very close to each other. I've seen him through all ups and downs. He's in the lead. I'm at number 2. At number 3, I believe, is Dave.
That's correct.
And Dave is occasionally, you never know about Dave when he's hiking. He's either a speed goating it or just dragging ass.
Right.
But he's coming in 3rd today. And then rolling in the 4th place, there was Jake.
Yeah.
And we're all spaced about, I'd say Josh and I are fairly close to one another, and you and Dave are fairly close, and there's some separation between us.
Maybe 30 or 40 yards between us.
Yeah, so,
this is a mountain trail. This is not straight. This is ups and downs, curves.
Yes, and we're at pretty high elevation at this point.
Yeah.
And right there on the trail, there is sort of you can see a log kind of go across the trail that you have to step over, and then on the other side of the log, there's a dip. So it's like you would have to step over it. So what you would want to do is either step completely over the log and land on the other side, or hit the log and kind of jump off of it. And Josh, being the Billy Goat man that he is, and we're just kind of talking. We're just like, hey, what blonde? Yeah, fucking, well, yeah, I do remember her. Yeah, with the blonde hair. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he fucking levitates. He fucking levitates. Like David goddamn Copperfield. I'd never seen anything like it, and I immediately knew what had happened.
Nothing else could create.
Because he looks down, and then he gets ready to step and doesn't step, just glides about 20 feet.
Like Luigi in Super Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah, and
Just
then
like,
he doesn't actually make the step, and he turns around and comes back toward me, and he goes, "Oh shit, oh my god!" And I was like, "Snake?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And I'm thinking probably black snake.
Sure,
that's what I'm thinking. It's probably black snake, and I get over to it and look, and sure enough, and it's black. And I was like, "Well, this black snake, we actually had seen a black snake earlier. It crawled right in front of us."
I've seen that, so myself and David, we hear the commotion. We hear the commotion. So we catch up and we see the two of you up there, nearby the log, in a cold sweat.
Very cold, very sweat.
Very cold, sweaty sweat. And it's at that point that we sort of defer to David's expertise. His woodsman expertise, which I'm not exactly sure that he has.
He has none. He was just the eldest.
He was just the oldest among us. We're like, you've been alive longer. What kind of snake is that?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think we all knew the answer. We just wanted him to say black snake.
Right.
And he gets down fairly close.
This thing is coiled, by the way.
Oh, and it's agitated.
Coiled and agitated.
Evidently not agitated enough, because it's around the time we're trying to identify the species of the snake that Dave, very confident about his knowledge, because he's like, "Oh yeah, what do we got over here?" And he kind of goes over there and rolls up his sleeves and getting ready to look at this thing. And he gets down fairly close and he goes, "Well, it looks like a black snake." And about this time, you start hearing the and he goes, "Except for the sound it's making." And that's when we were all like, "Fuck!" So it was a mountain rattler.
Yeah,
and he's very hidden.
Yeah,
like anybody else, Josh is very lucky he looked down where he did, because he was waiting for some ankle to hit right in front of him to strike it. And so we took a wide berth around him, and then we tried to prod him from the trail.
We did. We threw rocks at him.
Yeah, which is all we had. We didn't really want to. There was no sticks around that I felt were longer than his striking distance.
Sure.
To maybe give him a poke, but he just kept getting tighter and louder, and
that was impressive.
It's like, damn it. So we did warn people coming the direction we were going, but anyone that was behind us, I just hope that they looked down.
Same.
Always look where you're stepping.
Same.
But hopefully they didn't get struck by that guy. But he was hidden perfectly.
Yeah, it was impressive. Smart.
And you wonder often how many you walk past and never see.
Oh,
and it's tons. And that's the unsettling thing for me.
Because
when I saw the rattlesnake, I was very confident that there wasn't more around me. I was like, there's the snake.
There's the snake occupying the space.
There's the one.
There's the one. I was trying to remember because the first hike that the four of us went on, I guess a couple of years ago, very shortly after we got started in the hike, it was, I felt like it was late July. It was
very
extremely hot. Like
southern heat.
30 minutes into the hike, and like the sweat is just dripping off the bill of my hat.
It was dripping before we even got to the trail, from the car to the...
Very hot.
Yes.
But we start walking through this low place where it's very damp and very humid and very, I don't know, it just felt kind of, not swampy, but like if Virginia has a rainforest, that's probably what it feels like.
Closest to it.
And we're walking through there, and I believe it was you who said something.
I got snake brain.
You got the snake brain.
So I've been reading books about the trail.
Yes.
And I say, up there in Pennsylvania, they say you can't walk 10 feet in any direction without seeing a snake. They're on the rocks, they're everywhere. And about that time, a black snake
crosses right in front of me.
Right in front.
Right in front of me. And now, the funny thing about this black snake is it seemed to be a very old, fat, over it black snake, because it's just taking his.
He looked like he had a bathroom emergency. Yeah. He was just like, "Fuck it, excuse me, coming through."
And it was just like over it. Didn't care if we were trying to get through. Just slowly slithering across the trail.
Yes, my follow up to that was me being like, and I also read that there's hookers and briefcases full of $1 million bills. Also, everywhere you look.
Everywhere you look, they're on the rocks and everywhere.
But
didn't happen.
No luck.
Didn't happen. Only got the snake.
Yeah.
That was funny. It was a funny moment. It was just so, like, timing couldn't have been more perfect to you.
I know,
declaring.
Right? I was like, son of a bitch, there's one now.
It was just, it was movie timing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Do you have any other critter run-ins? You had a critter come across you?
I've had a couple of spider things.
Oh shit! Give me some spider stuff.
Yeah, I got some spider stuff. So many year ago, my family and I were in Florida. We were in just outside of Jacksonville, and which is a silly place. Never go there. But anyway, we're staying in this house, and the washer and dryer that were a part of the house were in this sort of like shed in the carport. It's an open carport, not a garage, it's a carport. And we get in there, it's late, we're tired, we've driven days to get there, etc. And we're like, okay, we got laundry to do. Let's do laundry. It's, I don't know what time of year it is, but it's Florida, so it's always hot. We roll in there. We kind of park outside the carport, leave the headlights on because there's no porch light, sadly. We start taking our stuff inside the home. Car's still running, headlights still on. And my dad's like, hey, I'll go ahead and get a load of laundry started, right? So he walks up to the carport and then opens the double doors to where the washer and dryer is. Now, I wouldn't have believed this had I not seen it myself. But opens the door, and on the front of the washer, I guess, because, you know, back then, I mean, this was 20 years ago, there was no front-loading washers. It was all just that big plain white sheet.
Rubber seal technology was not good enough. Yeah.
It was just, boom, white. And there was a spider, I mean, at least that big. Like, just, boom,
And
right
for the
on,
listeners,
right.
we're talking about a child's basketball size.
Yeah, we're talking, yeah, about the size of this hat.
For our listeners.
For our listeners, about the size
pointed
of this
to a hat the size of a child's basketball.
But anyway, so, like, we start backing away slowly.
But like if you diamond your hands, maybe.
I mean, maybe not quite that big, but depends on the size of your hand, right? So I would say about the size, like, it could probably wrap around a junior football.
Okay.
Like, big spider.
Okay.
And then we just like backing away slowly and then start looking up and realizing that there's more than one in there.
Shit.
And then we're just like, fuck. And then, like, none of us slept that night.
You burned the house down.
No, we tried to sleep.
That's where spiders come from, that house.
It was horrifying.
That's like that's walking into the den of, like, the xenomorph. Like,
yeah. That's sort of how it felt backing out of there. It's like that scene in Aliens where Ripley walks in and there's all those eggs.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was picturing.
Fuck. Like, I mean, it wasn't that many, obviously.
So
but
you got the flamethrower, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Stay away from her, you bitch.
Charred the carport is what happened.
I would have loved to, because it was grotesque. Yeah, it's just like, it was that spider style where it's like they got the 4 legs forward and the 4 backward. You know what I'm saying? It's like
spider
they're not,
style. Yeah.
You know, I don't know what genre of spider that is. It's like a hybrid genre, but, you know, it's not like they're evenly distributed. It was just like one of them sports car spiders. It was like low in the front with the legs out and then high in the back.
You know, years later now that, you know, then you didn't have the beauties of high-speed internet and Google. Have you looked to see...
Been too afraid to do it. I've never
because there could be a chance they're just big dumb spiders and they couldn't even hurt you.
I mean, seriously, something that big could hurt you.
I mean,
especially, you know, 10-year-old me. It definitely
probably
could hurt
punch you to death. It could just get mad and start just 8-leg punching you in the face.
Yeah, maybe.
But, you know, maybe it's not poisonous. Who knows?
I think I have, like, snakes don't bother me. Bears don't bother me. You know, wolves. None of that stuff really scares me at all. Like, because those, they're furry mammals, and for some reason, I just can't be terrified
Snakes
of them.
are not furry mammals.
Okay, snakes are not furry mammals, you're right. But snakes, I don't think snakes sit around thinking about hurting me.
When you're told they're living in your walls.
Right. I'm not negating your point. I'm talking about...
It depends on how vulnerable I am in any situation.
Sure. But with insects, there's just something about an insect being on me that is like the most creepy thing. Really? Like, someone could lay a snake on me right now, and I'd be totally fine with it. They could wrap it around my neck, and I'd be like, cool, you know? But if someone came in here and just, like, sat a fucking June bug on me...
June bug.
I would not be okay with it.
I would fucking eat a June bug right now. Like, bugs, I'm so much bigger than they are. What are they going to do?
I don't know, man. It's just, I think there's probably a couple things I could point back to that affected me. Like, I was very young the first time I saw Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and all the bugs in that movie, like that one hallway where there's just covered in bugs and there's spiders all over that one guy in the first movie. So not that one, but like there's lots of insect things and just the creepy crawly, like under your shirt crawling around or getting into your ear and worming its way into your brain, that kind of thing. Just, I don't know.
I mean, I grew up...
I'd rather be bitten by a wolf.
I basically grew up made out of ticks and mosquitoes and gnats.
Like, mosquitoes and gnats don't bother me. They really don't.
They're the worst ones. I fucking hate those things.
I know, but like, if there was a beetle on me...
Really?
I
would let it crawl on me. I don't care. I would do it. Man, we're just so opposite.
But see, the big one for me...
Well, fuck a bug up.
are bees. Like, bees are my Achilles heel, if I had one.
I don't prefer bees, but I'm not allergic either. I know
right.
a lot of people have a
I'm
real
not
reason
allergic.
to get away.
I've gotten better over the years, obviously, as being, stung hasn't become much of a problem lately. But I got stung a lot as a kid. Not a whole lot. I mean, not probably more than anyone else, but I had an incident where a hornet found its way into my shirt and stung me 4 or 5 times before it got out. That was traumatizing as a 7-year-old.
Sure. You don't trust shirts after that.
You don't. You're like, fuck shirts.
Yeah. Just always tank tops after that, because it's more exits.
Right.
It's like, if you're in there, fucking get out,
Yep. Yeah. That's... Yeah, insects, man. I don't know why. They just don't like them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them at all. Even bees, I don't so much care. I'll deal with it. But I mean, you never know when you might run into a bee's nest or something. That's bad. That's a bad day. Even my wife, the last 3 times she has been stung was while she was driving her car.
That's awful.
In 2 different cars. It's not just like there was just one car where the bees just loved being. No, just multiple cars.
Cars loved being.
Being in the bee car.
Well.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like that. So that's not worried about the bees. But if they came in here, if someone came in here holding a snake and a June bug all day for me. I'll put it in my mouth. I'll put it on the head of my dick. I don't care. I'd do whatever with it.
Yeah,
it wouldn't bother me. But the snake, you can get it out. I have a mildly funny spider story though.
Hit me.
You're talking about that spider.
Hit me.
We bought a new house, and there's a shed adjunct to the property down the lower part of the property. And that's where I store my my tools, and a lot of the lawnmower and things like that. And so I'm going in there about once a week, and I got it locked and everything. And it's just old wooden shed. It's very nice on the inside. It's fairly new. I would say it was put there. Jesus, was that it?
That was it.
Oh my God. I'll be sure to overlay that image during the video. It's a giant spider, but
it's a golden silk orb weaver.
Okay. Do they kill the humans?
I'm assuming there is, because there's only one article on it.
Cool. So inside the shed. So I open up the door. I got my mower in here, and I've just been waltzing in there. I've just been like,
right.
I'm a new homeowner. I'm a new shed owner. I got a mower. I own a mower. I'm gonna do all this. And I get my mower, and I'm getting ready to leave the shed, and I look up, and right above the door, is a wolf spider about the size of my hand, maybe a little smaller.
Shit. And
he's just hanging out. And then I did the same thing you did, where you just kind of zoom out your vision, and I realized there are 3 wolf spiders. There is a gaggle, a family.
Oh.
What do you call a family of wolves? I don't know, a pack. There's a pack of wolf spiders.
Yeah.
Just hanging out above the door, and I'm not confident that I can run through the threshold of the door and they won't leap into my hair and murder me to death.
Right.
I have that legitimate fear. Now, like I said, if it were a June bug,
it's fun.
But when there's 3 wolf spiders and they got me cornered in my own shed, I'm a
awful,
grown
dude.
man. And I hear my neighbor over there, and I'm like, do I scream for help? Like, I don't know. Like, they've not really done anything to me yet. Like, it'd just be weird if he showed up and he was just like, oh, actually, these are plastic or something. So I'm like, I'm just going to hang out here for a bit and maybe just get up the gumption to sprint out of the shed. Like, I've already pretty much given up on mowing. I'm like, I'll leave that in here. But, it's fine. It's up to my ankles. It'll be fine. Yeah. But I got to get out of this fucking shit. It's getting hot in here. And these spiders, who knows what's behind me? I'm not even going to turn around. I'm afraid to look anywhere else. And so I get up the nerve, and I finally fucking run up the door, and I swear to God, I feel one hit me in the neck. I swear to God. I felt it just go like right on my neck. And so I do a front flip out in the yard, pulling the shirt off of me. And then I roll through the grass and stand up, and I got like dead grass all over me from the previous mow. And
spider mow.
My shirt's off, and I'm just like itchy now, and I'm like batting myself down. And there's no. I look back in there, they hadn't moved.
Of course not.
And my neighbor's like kind of pretending like he didn't see anything, like he just not.
Just did one of those.
Yeah, didn't even wave at me when he saw me. Just like, oh shit, I don't know what he was up to.
Some weird sex thing.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just get the grass off my shirt and put it back on and lock the door and burn the shed down and moved. So we live in a different house now. But, yeah, I actually, every time I went back in there, though, it was really funny because I got Tracy to come down there with me one time. I'm like, you won't believe the fucking size of these spiders. And she's like, I want to see them. Can I see them? I was like, well, you can see them, but they're really hard to see because from the outside, you'd have to, like, get underneath them to see them, and they could just drop on your face.
Drop right in your face.
You don't want that. So
No.
I was trying to get real fancy. I had like a couple mirrors I brought down. I was like, all right, now hold that mirror this way, and I'm going to hold it. Can you see any? They're everywhere. All right. So we're not mowing again.
Not till winter.
Yeah, so I don't even know how you eradicate those things aside from just praying them away.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, I don't know if they make a spider bomb for those.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
they did eventually leave. After one winter, they were gone.
Yeah, look at that's the size of that thing.
That's gross. Yep, I hear you.
5 of them that I know of.
Whew. That takes us to another submission.
Got another submission.
This is from the always, well-written, good story given fucking Diego.
Diego.
He's always got a good one. I love the way he writes them. They're so good. So you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Diego writes, okay, so this here tale is a yarn about when nature went and had a hoedown in the great indoors of my house. I know, not what you asked for, but did you really want a story about the time us Boy Scouts slept outside in sub-freezing temperatures around a bonfire, deciding if keeping your head warm or your feet warm was more important? Hint, it's your feet. And waking up to take a piss in freshly fallen snow and deciding to spell the word scud with your pee? No, you don't want that story. So in the early morning hours of a December night in 2013, my wife and I were awoken by the sound of power going out in our home. It turned out our town was hit by an ice storm that rivaled the movie The Ice Storm, which all I really remember about was a freaky... Which all I really remember about that was a freaky swingers party involving Sigourney Weaver. Which makes me wonder if I should check out this movie.
I'm thinking I should.
We got up around 3 a.m., and while walking around the house, we heard a huge crash. It turned out that the ice made a huge tree branch from one of our big trees in the backyard crash into our backyard. It took down power lines, cable lines, and I think other branches from other trees blew out the transformer that routed the power lines for the block of homes that were adjacent to our backyard. So some real damage being done by this ice storm.
Sounds like it.
Up to 40% of the residents of Lansing, Michigan lost power in that ice storm. My wife and I did not regain our power for over a week. We managed to stay one night in the home, completely covered in blankets, and after that we decided to take refuge in my wife's granny's house. Smart move. Granny's always keeping it hot in there. Granny's got the coal burning, always.
I always got them quilts.
That's why I love a good granny. I got to have my hot rock. If somebody's like, want to go to my grandma's house? I'm like, look, yeah, she's probably got a hot in there. I want it. So every day or two, we would check on the house to see how it was doing with power, etc. Well, one particular trip home, as I unlocked the front door and walked in, my wife and I heard a lot of loud rattling and clanging of pots and pans. We looked quietly at each other and were like, holy shit, we're being robbed by looters. I quietly opened the front hallway closet and pulled out the first thing that looked like it could do damage, a putter.
Okay, yeah.
I tiptoed across our living room, and the clanging kept on going. I rounded the corner into our dining room and approached the threshold of the kitchen, my wife behind me whispering, "This is a bad idea." I take the final step and look into the kitchen. I see it. It's fucking eating my goddamn favorite chocolate chip cookies. It's broken every jar, vase, and container on our kitchen counter. It shredded the loaf of bread, went through our trash, and pulled out some leftover pizza we threw out. It was a cute, fuzzy, terrified little squirrel. My wife screamed. The squirrel screamed. I, realizing that I was first in line to potentially get rabies and the deranged mental illness that would follow, too, screamed. The squirrel shot across our kitchen. I swung the putter around to show it off the counter, and it ran downstairs into our basement. I chased after it. Managed to close the door to the portion of our basement that contained the furnace and laundry machine, and tried in vain to wrap it into a U-Haul box. Eventually, we learned that the squirrel had gotten in through the chimney flue. Because the caps were broken on the chimney flue, the little fella had gotten too cold and none of the houses were running their furnaces or fireplaces, so the natural barriers keeping critters outside were in effect. Nature had claimed my little home as its new domain. You'd think we'd have learned our lesson and immediately repaired the cap on that flue, but no. After that, we had 2 birds manage to fly down our chimney, and one more squirrel, a flying squirrel, not only got down the chimney while we were gone, but had made itself comfortable in our bedroom and only revealed himself as we were getting ready for bed.
Oh, shit.
There was a fun time getting him out of the house. Moral of the story, folks, keep your chimney caps in good condition. Diego Avila. So thank you, Diego. God, I love that story.
That's a good story.
I imagine it's him just creeping around the corner, with the putter, just ready for a fight.
Yeah.
Like expecting another human being.
Like that's straight out of a movie.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It was very well
Straight
written,
out of a
well
movie.
written. But yeah, I would have loved to just turn the corner and him just see the the bushy tail of the squirrel just rummaging through his things.
Yeah, like remember that little video that went around the internet for years and probably still does, where that God, I think it's a squirrel. It turns around with the dramatic music.
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh, come on, guys, help me out. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, if somebody finds it and links it, I'll watch it.
It's hilarious. Surprise something. I don't remember what it is, but it's just this dramatic turn with dramatic music, and it's a little vermin.
So you imagine that's
what happened.
Yes,
that had to be what happened.
I think the putter was a great move.
I also agree with that.
I think
I played Hitman. I know he kills people with golf clubs. So
yes, I mean, if you got a good swing, as long as you don't catch like a chandelier or something on the way through, and you make a clean hit, it'll hurt just about anything you hit with it.
It's true. It's true.
Including a little squirrel.
Little squirrel eating pizza.
Yeah, a little squirrel eating leftover pizza. Fortunately, I don't think Diego had to bludgeon the squirrel to death in his own home. I think it quietly left after he was able to corral it. That's good.
That's good. Always good.
Yeah. We talked a lot about snakes, and obviously my fear of them, especially the ones that I can't see. Believe it or not, though, I lived in a house with another kid for 3 years in college who had a snake as a pet.
That's crazy, dude.
I didn't venture into his room very often.
Sure.
I didn't allow my cat in there.
Right.
I said, the cat doesn't go in here. Too many snakes. I didn't know he had a snake until well after the lease was signed, and we were moving in that day, and I was like, what's in that box? What's in that clear box that has a snake in it? Is that a fucking snake? Turns out it was a real life snake. Ball python.
Ball
python.
I was going to make that assumption.
Yeah, and now he, one of the entertaining things about the snake was it ate once a month, and so he would go down to the pet store and get a feeder mouse or a feeder rat, and bring it. They would put him in a box, and everybody would sit around and wait for the snake to eat the rat, and it's cool once. For me, it wasn't like everyone, like monthly. People were like, hey, has Oscar got to eat yet? And people were just coming over and watching this shit. And I was just like, God damn, this is...
You've seen it once. Yeah.
I'm over it. Like, ugh. But it was a big deal. One time, though, the mouse, for whatever reason, didn't get used, like, immediately and chewed its way through the box and got loose in the house. And we kept seeing... Like, we had a cat there, just did not care. The cat was like, you won't let me into the snake? I'm not getting the mouse. It's whatever. This seems like the snake's problem.
I'm staying neutral.
Yeah, he was very neutral on it. But the mouse terrorized us for weeks. Just weeks. And I want to say the mouse, I think he might have even escaped. Yeah, no, he escaped his little feeder box, like chewed through it and got away. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like he's earned his freedom, personally. I mean, he is, he can't really be free because he's probably not bred for that or something.
Right.
Because he's not wild or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was kind of pulling for him to this, stay free. But my roommate who possessed the snake, a very smart lad. He's a pharmacist now. As a kid, very bright dude. Occasionally just those gears weren't completely lubed for him.
Gotcha.
And he spots the mouse on the counter, and the mouse makes a darting movement toward the microwave, and Buddy runs up and shoves the microwave, thus splattering said feeder rat all over the kitchen. And fortunately for me, I was going to work, and I was going to continue going to work.
Oh, of course.
And I was going to work until
you made
it was
that
gone.
mess. Yeah, you made that mess. You cleaned that up.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't use the microwave after that either. I was just like, I'll just eat Arby's again. I don't think I'm going to use anything in our kitchen ever.
Never.
Yeah. So that was a literal run-in with nature.
Literal.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So he didn't get away. He actually died horribly and tragically behind a microwave. Kind of wish the snake had eaten him now.
Yeah,
but,
that would probably been more human. Yeah.
Well, it would have been more ecological, I guess.
Yeah.
It would have been used
appropriately.
It would have been murdered, really. It would have been, part of the food chain.
Right.
But yeah, fuck, what are you going to do?
So I guess another way to run it with nature would be weather, right? We sort of briefly talked about that.
Weather, you nature. Or nature, you weather, yeah.
Yeah, nature, you nature.
Nature, you weather. I'm just trying to be like nature, somebody that's hanging out with us. So nature, you crazy, but you also weather. Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Okay, yeah. So where were you in 1989? Were you here?
Were you talking about Hurricane Andrew?
No, I'm talking about Hugo.
Hugo, I'm sorry. Which one? Andrew was 92, I think.
And that was also in Florida. Not here.
Yes. It was 4.
Okay.
I was 4 years old,
Did you have any issues?
Some power outages, some flooding.
Okay.
But nothing too cray-cray.
See, like, I lived in a little town not far from here. Not seriously, like 3 miles that way.
Okay.
In 1989. And I remember the morning that it was about to, make a not landfall because we're so far inland, but where it would actually start affecting us. And it was about 3 a.m. and just started hearing the wind pick up. And then, the lights were flickering. And then the rain came. And then started hearing the sounds of trees falling. And then the sounds of trees falling off the house.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And things breaking outside. And, not cool.
Not cool.
Not cool. I was six years of age at the time, I guess. And, we were without power for a very long time. Lots of flooding because where we were at was not terribly high. It's kind of sort of a flat area.
Yeah. It's crazy what will flood even if there's not like a big water source. Like a little creek can ruin shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we lived on the other side of a little creek, and it was, way too high to get across anything we had.
It's crazy because it can go from like, it's only a creek that's like 2 feet wide and 6 inches deep. It's like, why is there 10 feet of water here then?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
It's crazy. But do you have any like crazy weather stories?
Somewhat. Our town where I grew up does have a more sizable creek that runs through it, and where my dad worked was really in a flood zone. And I remember times where it would flood, and it would be like 6 feet high in his office, and like all of the electronic equipment and everything there. And he would have to make some pretty tough decisions about what they were going to do because everyone's phone system was going to go down, and the phone system, usually the power could go out, the phone system could stay up.
Right.
And so that was he usually had to go and make some decisions about whether or not they were going to pull the plug to or do something to save equipment, or what they were going to do because now everybody's emergency system is gone. Like, especially in the 80s and 90s. So I remember that being a big deal. I remember seeing the flooding and being like, holy shit, like it just kind of wow. Like, the water's high. Like, it's just dumb, And especially near where my grandmother lived also flooded a lot. She lived in a place called Poor Valley. And it was named such based on the fertility of the land, not the people. But it was in an area that flooded a lot, so there was a lot of runoff. So it wasn't actually very good for crops or anything.
Right, makes sense.
But when it would flood there, all the houses there, and it's weird because it's a mountain community.
Yeah.
But all the houses through there are on stilts. Yeah. And the creek is not I call it a creek. They call it like it's like the fork of a river, but it's not big. Yeah. And it's crazy the damage those things can do. It's mind blowing. Just
it is.
Makes you feel really small when you see water moving that viciously and at that mass. The only other thing that really stands out to me though was a tornado.
Okay.
And I didn't see it firsthand. It just ran through the town that I lived in a neighboring town. But it was less than a mile away from my parents' home. And there were no warnings because we don't get them. Like the biggest one before this was in 1970. And then there was the one that happened 34 years later. And
right.
So there's no built-in, like, nobody's like,
hey, we got a tornado coming.
I think there might be I feel like a niter. Like, it's just feeling nitery. Like,
it's not like Kansas where they have, like, just people's job is to say, hey, there's tornadoes.
and occasionally we'll get the tornado warnings, and if there is one, it's not a powerful thing. They usually bounce off a few mountains and fizzle out. But this one, if they're powerful enough to sustain that, they're usually pretty mean.
Yeah.
And this one in particular it did a lot of damage. There weren't a ton of fatalities. Thankfully, it missed a lot of population centers, but it meandered for like 13 miles, which is crazy.
That is a very long time.
It was crazy, and it maintained its velocity for quite a while. And there were houses less than a mile from my parents that were just upside down, and like all windows shattered, roofs gone. And my dad and mom were standing on the porch watching it go by, peaceful, no wind. All they could hear was the whoo that it made down the street.
That's crazy.
Saw some lightning, occasionally a breeze, but less than a mile away, things were being just demolished.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is nuts. And there's like this glow over the sky, so they could almost see the funnel.
Yeah.
in watching sparks fly up and stuff as it hit things. So that's a secondhand story, but it's still crazy to me because if it had hit my parents' house, which is so old, it would have just been in a billion pieces. So just real lucky it didn't meander or take a hook left or a hook right, when it could have.
I was in a crazy hailstorm in Texas one time. That was crazy because it was we were in a place that had skylights. So, we just started hearing, it started storming, and it was, it was Amarillo, Texas, so that's up in the Panhandle. It's surrounded by nothing. It's very flat. There's not a lot of trees, just a lot of farmland, a lot of desert. And so there's not a lot to break up the wind out there. Amarillo is not a very vertical city either. It's all very sort of spread out, unlike, Dallas or Fort Worth or something like that. So, started just hailing, in big... not like softball size, people always say, oh, softball. It's
grapefruit.
It's a grapefruit, It wasn't that big, but it was probably baseball size.
Wow.
Actually baseball size. And these things were just piling up on these skylights and just sitting there watching, and these big balls of ice just pile up. And the next day, you walk outside and pick them up, and there was just everywhere. There was insurance adjusters' homes, people at people's homes everywhere. Every driveway just had a Progressive or State Farm or something in there. The fins on top of the heat pump for the fans. Those were just beaten shut.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
just
nuts.
completely beaten shut.
Wow. Yeah, man, that sounds... I always
Weather's
feel like
crazy.
after a hailstorm, it seems like the sun comes out almost immediately. It's almost eerie. It's usually it's brighter out when they hit, and you're just like, what the fuck?
What in the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll come in the summer. It could be an 80-degree day, and you're like, there are balls of ice in my yard.
Yep.
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah, nature, you cray.
Nature, you cray.
You're so cray.
So cray.
I don't have anything else that stands out to me. Now, I love big weather. I'm even on Reddit, I'm subscribed to weather gifs where it's just unimaginable,
right?
Larger than life movements of the earth.
It's pretty cool.
Pissed off Earth.
It's interesting. We in our neck of the woods, we're not really known for any specific weather events, but we get them all just on smaller scales. We had an earthquake here last week.
Yeah, they're everywhere at all times.
Yeah,
man.
but it's just not noticeable. We didn't used to really get tornadoes, but they feel like they've picked up in the last decade or two.
Yeah.
At least my knowledge of them has, and we've had a hurricane or two come through. So it's we still have a lot of seasonal stuff here too. We have full-on seasons here in this state, which is nice.
Yeah, we get the blizzards and
the heat waves,
dog days and
the,
everything else. Yeah.
So
you get it all.
We do.
Has its ups and downs. But,
I'd rather have variety than just be hot all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird though, because if you go an hour in either direction, you can be right at the heart of some real danger zones. An hour east, and then you're much more likely to get even tornadoed or hurricaned. Yep. An hour south, for sure, the tornadoes, flooding everywhere. But yeah, we're kind of in a little
pocket.
Yeah, I would call it a safety pocket, but shit still gets fucked here.
Yeah, it does.
All right, so does that do it? You got anything else? Gosh, I can't think of anything else. Bugs and spiders and snakes and being outdoors. Oh, I do have one.
You have one?
I have one. If we want to close it out on being terrified in the woods.
Okay.
On a trail, not even lost. I know exactly where I'm at.
Okay.
But it was the first hike we ever did, and by that I mean, first overnight multi-mile hike.
Right.
Hiking was not something I really got into until I was in my mid-20s. It just kind of bored me before that, but then I was like, man, I kind of want to do this overnight, bring some gear, fucking camp, and I got into it for some reason. So that's when we started to do it. And so the first one, we might have bit off a little bit more than we could chew.
Sure.
It was we did 25 miles over. We started early on a Saturday morning, and we were going to wrap it up on Sunday and be done. That's a lot of miles. Especially when you've never hiked before, you're not even confident in the shoes you got on. You bought them for this. You have all new things on your back. It's all very heavy. You've packed too much.
Way too much.
Thinking, I don't know how much I thought I ate regularly, but I thought way too much. It's not, you don't need that much food, especially when it's hot. You're not going to eat as much. You're just going to drink a lot of water.
Right.
And so we did drink a lot of water, and we made it all the way through that day. And we knew, because the trail is very mapped out.
Yes.
And you know pretty much where all the water sources are, where all the shelters are, and everything else. And but it's still not great at judging distance. And you start walking, and you're like, has that been a mile? Has that been 15 yards. Like, I don't know anymore. Like, after a while, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
and if someone's like, yeah, it's just, it's about another mile that way. You're like, oh, we'll be there in no time. And then that just drags on and on and on. And so I know that we have another shelter coming up that has a water source, and we're really low on water. And I was like, well, that's our goal to get to camp, is that. And we meander and we walk and we walk. And I know it was supposed to be like 6 miles from the last place we stopped, but it just seems like it's taking forever. And obviously we're getting more uphill and we're tired and we're getting slower. So we feel like we should be there by now, but we're not. It's getting frustrating.
Then you start getting irritated, yeah.
Getting irritated, but then also it's starting to get dark and I have no water. And I realize at this point, like, I don't know what I'm going to do because we're at high elevation. There hasn't been creeks for hours. It's been 93 degrees all day. It's August, dry fucking heat. There's nothing. Like, the only way I'm going to get water is to stab my ear and just drink the blood. Drink my own blood. That's the only way I'll wet liquid will touch my lips. Or to get the dog to pee in my mouth, because there is a dog with us.
Right.
Who's also running low on water. So it's a very panic thing, and I'm starting to get lightheaded and weak, and I start to, like, it's the first time ever in my life I've ever, like, hyperventilated. Like, I had to stop at a tree and was just like, I'm going to probably die here. Fuck. And we set up our tent, and I laid in the tent without water and couldn't eat anything because then I would dehydrate more. And my piss was dust. It was like, I was like, I just have nothing. Yeah, totally planned wrong. Not feeling great. Feet are fucked up. Shoulders and back are killing me. And I'm just laying there, and I'm like, this is not good. And it takes me forever to get my tent set up, and it's almost pitch black. And I wake up in the morning. Eventually, I fall asleep. Actually, before that, there's a funny thing that happens. This is the same day that we saw the bear charged at us. This is hours later. Okay. Hours later, and then we're in separate tents, and Dave's in the neighboring tent, and Dave goes, Travis, did you hear that? And I got real quiet. No. Dave, what did you hear? Dave, what did you hear though, Dave? Dave! And I keep saying it over and over. He's like, oh, sorry, dude. My dog made a noise. Sorry, I fell asleep right there. I was like, oh, my God. I was like, first of all, the bear ate him so silently.
Yeah, I never heard it coming.
Yeah, and he's probably about to eat me right now. I can't hear anything. And I'm over here just yelling, Dave! Like, basically, bear, I'm over here, you silent predator. I wake up that morning and unzip the tent and look out, and somehow I'd set up my tent on a cliff. It was like 100, maybe not 100 feet, maybe 50 to 75 feet straight down, like a foot from where I set it up. Like, I don't even know how I got in the tent that morning. Like,
God, dude.
It was crazy. We looked off and he was like, Jesus. I was like, oh my God. First of all, I put my door on the wrong side. I don't know why I did that. But I was hyperventilating. I was very scared and very confused.
Jeez.
And had no water and couldn't think. And it turns out all we did, when we put our stuff on, we got up, we started walking, still no water. We walked about 5 minutes up, and there's the spring and the thing right there. We were right there. If we had walked another, 5 minutes.
That's crazy.
It was right there. And I wouldn't have, nearly cried myself to sleep and thought I was going to die from either dehydration or a silent bear predator.
Yeah.
Or Bigfoot or whoever was out there.
Whatever.
Yeah. So that was it. But I go better prepared now. You got to get that first one out of the way.
Right.
And now I got all good ideas.
There's something, and not to get off on a whole different thing here, but there's something about the hike where you test your limits a little bit. You kind of see a little bit more what you're capable of, what you can take, both mentally and physically. And also having that responsibility thrust upon you that no one can get you out but you. It's like once you're in 10 miles, it's not like you can be like, all right.
Yeah, it's just call an Uber.
Right, yeah, that's not going to happen. You got to get yourself out. There's sort of something empowering about that, but also very tiring and infuriating and
it's liberating. Yeah.
It's fun.
It's such a high when you complete that goal.
Yeah.
Like for us, we're not biting off big chunks, but we're doing what we can do for overweight middle-aged guys that have a free weekend. We'll go and do a 20-miler, which is a huge deal. And then at the end, you're like, ha, survived another one.
The last hike that we did, I swear, like the whole time, I was miserable the whole time. Because, I don't know who planned the hike. I'm going to blame Dave since he isn't here. But I think he did it. I think he did plan the hike. But it was just uphill for 18 miles. I think it was like 18 miles of just uphill. And it was hot. and like we were so sweaty, and it was like we would lay down in a shelter and just make sweat angels in the floor of the shelters.
Yeah.
And like that night, we all took our clothes off and went into our respective tents and got up in the morning, and like our clothes were more wet.
Yeah, it was very damp
because it was so humid.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, it was like,
as soon as you walk and you get into the truck, because you park at one end at the other, and you're basically walking to your buddy's truck, and you thought about it, and you're like, oh, if I can see that truck. Down. And as soon as we get in, and you're like, so it was great. What do you guys want to do this again? That was so much fun.
So good. Like, yeah,
we almost died like 6 or 7 times. Like the snake thing would have been a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I had cuts all over my shoes that cut through my heel, and I was just dragging my limp leg like I'd been shot in Nam. I was just cussing the whole time, like just moaning. Like,
we were so mad at like those signs that were like, shelter 6 miles or something
just
like
fucking
that.
lie.
And they were so like we were just yelling at the signs because like no, fire out. It was funny.
Someone really needs to come out here and measure this. That's what we say over and over again.
Over and over. And I'm sure they have.
It's probably right, but
doesn't seem like it at the time.
It seems very not right when you're so tired and you see it. You just don't see the number you want to see is the problem.
Right, that is, yeah. You get very irrational.
Yeah, it's true. And there's no hurry up. It's like, well, if we hurry up and do this through, it's like, no, we're actually going to get slower because the day's going
to get slower.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun, yeah.
It makes for some great stories, man. I got a good bear story out of it. I got a good snake story. I got a good... I'm a big pansy, and I cried in my tent because I thought I was going to die, but I did. I was fine.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I don't know.
It's a good time.
It's good. It's a really good time. So... thanks everyone that submitted a nature story. Dean and Diego, those were really good. Actually, I enjoyed those a lot. Next time, obviously, guys, it's going to be around Halloween. We're looking for your scary stories.
What you got the scary? What's your local legend? Who's the ghost in your town? Who's the old man by the train tracks that carries a lantern looking for his dead lover or whatever?
Yeah, give us a good spooky.
Yeah, whatever you got.
Anything mysterious, really. Anything scary that's happened to you. Anything scary you've heard that's happened. Like you said, like a local legend, or maybe you
some weird thing that's happened to you.
Maybe you went on a thrill ride yourself, and you went into like an old home or something. You went urban exploring, and it got creepy. Like that stuff, I kind of want to hear about too. So
that's cool. Yeah.
If you got anything like that, send it our way.
Illegal B&Es.
Yes, legal or illegal, I don't care.
Yeah.
We're not going to. It could be an anonymous submission. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't care.
But you can submit those to polykillpodcast@gmail.com.
I think we're going to do the next podcast by candlelight. We're going to do away with these.
We should.
We should.
We should. For the 4 people that watch these online, you'll be seeing us via candlelight next time. That'd be great. That's a good idea.
Very sensual.
Yeah, that's actually a really smart idea. So we'll do that. So please send those in. Thanks for listening. You can hop on over to thecartridgeclub.org and hop on the forums if you want to add any more stories to this episode. Which always happens. You can write them there, and we can all share and enjoy. So thanks again, and we'll see you for an Off-Killter here around Halloween.